Hi, Hayden, you're calling me. This is a nice change.
Actually, what time is it over there?
It is 5:30 p.m.
Oh, that's a perfectly fine time.
It's a perfectly fine time. It's tax day, so it's a very stressful day over here.
Oh, okay, so you're a little bit stressed. I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
I guess I'm always a little bit afraid of the American government if I mess up what I pay them or don't pay them if they'll come for me, you know?
Yeah, the worst that could happen is that the IRS comes after you and kicks you out of the country, destroying your career and basically giving you a criminal record.
Yeah, that is the concern. It's always in the back of my mind, but I think it's going to be okay. Actually, wait, I have a question for you about this week's episode.
Oh, yeah?
Doing an episode about the iconic restaurant chain Olive Garden. Have you heard of Olive Garden?
In like a pop cultural sort of way, like you hear about it in American media. They're always talking about Olive Garden.
What can you tell me about Olive Garden? What do you know?
That they go there. It's either a bad or a good place to go on a date. I think it's probably bad, considered quite unclassy to go there on a date. There's some sort of special, like where you get infinite number of something or other, like maybe infinite pasta or something. It seems like it's a very important monument for Americans, but I'm not terribly sure too much else about it. But they're always talking about it in the American media, podcasts, rom-coms, whatever. I don't know. I hear about it all the time. One other thing that you guys inflict upon us.
Do you think there's anything in New Zealand that would be the equivalent of an Olive Garden?
I don't quite know where to place it in like the chain of restaurants, but I think maybe is it like a Denny's level? Maybe it's a bit above Denny's.
I guess we're going to find out.
I'm David Farrier, a New Zealander accidentally marooned in America, and I want to figure out what makes this country tick. Now, something America loves to do is open a restaurant and then open thousands more of the same thing all across the country. Flightless Bird has already touched on places like Waffle House and Bubba Gump's, and in this episode, I wanted to look at the most Italian of America's restaurant chains.
At the Olive Garden Italian restaurant, we speak a different language.
The very first Olive Garden opened a few weeks before I was born, on December 13th, 1982.
The Olive Garden Italian restaurant, where all the best of Italy is yours.
The first one opened in Florida, and by 1990 there were over 100 more Olive Gardens, the chain multiplying at what some would call an alarming rate. Americans love the taste of Italy, and all the carbs and all the cheese. I think I first took notice of Olive Garden when that couple went viral for having their engagement photos at Olive Garden. They pretended they were in Italy, and everyone believed them.
Ah, how romantic. Engagement photos snapped in the Italian countryside. But this isn't really Tuscany. It's an Olive Garden restaurant in Tennessee.
So, grab those breadsticks and get ready to consume a lot of cheese, because this is the Olive Garden episode.
Flightless, flightless, flightless bird touchdown in America. I'm a flightless bird touchdown in America.
Rob, emotionally, how do you connect with Olive Garden? Does anything come up? What's your relationship with this place?
I mean, when I was a kid and I was younger, Olive Garden was the nice dinner out.
Yeah.
In the suburbs of Chicago, there was one right by the Woodfield Mall in Schaumburg. I was one of four kids, so going out to dinner in general was
It was exciting.
eventized.
I didn't know you had three siblings.
Yeah,
I thought you had maybe two.
two older sisters and a younger brother.
Well, so you'd all get packed into the car and
Into the minivan.
Off to Olive Garden you would go.
Which was out just sitting outside the mall. Yeah, it was always packed. I remember it always being packed, and you'd get the little buzzer thing to let you know when your table was ready.
Yeah.
And just waiting in that lobby. I mean, we didn't go a ton, but
But when you went, it was family, it was a good vibe. You fill yourselves up with carbs and cheese.
I have fond memories of going there as a kid. Yeah, the unlimited breadsticks and salad. I remember the breadsticks were great. They're like the right amount of salty.
I got confused when I was talking to Hayden because, as I found out in the documentary, it's unlimited breadsticks. Hayden mentioned unlimited pasta, which I didn't realize was a thing, but they brought it back.
They had like a pasta card or something that you could get unlimited pasta with.
I just went, and this now sounds like I'm doing an ad for the Olive Garden, but I'm just trying to get my facts straight. I went to their website before and it says the never-ending pasta bowl is back. So I guess you just go there and eat as much pasta as you want.
Yeah, as you keep bringing in these restaurant chains that I have to recount what it was like going to when I was younger, I'm having a hard time figuring out if...
Like which was which?
No, not which is which, but now I don't look back at any of these as great dining. Like I'm not going to Cheesecake Factory or Olive Garden or
so you're not,
Bubba Gumps
are you
to
passing
eat
it
now.
down to the next generation? Like, would you bring your family to these places, or are you kind of like stopping the chain?
That's kind of the question I have. I don't know if those chains are just dying out and becoming less of a thing that all these families are gathering at them, or as I'm getting older and my culture is changing, if
you're not rushing back and taking your kids there necessarily.
But I would imagine people are still going there.
They definitely are.
Yeah.
I think it probably depends where in the country you are and what kind of diet you like as well, I imagine. It's like that kind of bleeds into it.
Yeah. But that's the confusing part in my mind is how much of this is me just getting older and liking different things and how much of it is that these chains are no longer what they used to be.
I feel that's also just a bigger thing in life as you get older in general. Like I feel like I'm asking that question to myself all the time. Like, am I feeling this because things are drastically changing, or I am just old and out of touch and I've become that meme where I now don't understand the things around me, which is a horrifying thing to feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah, because now food-wise, what I like is more the local, sustainably sourced.
Yeah, you want to support local things and not.
And
the idea of a chain isn't something that you think, wow, I want to do this thing.
Yeah. But I don't know if that's also something that's evolving within the country.
I ended up at a dinner party a couple of nights ago, and they were people aged between 30 and 40. And I just said to them, I took over. So when I went to Olive Garden, they gave me, I bought a bottle for you.
Oh, good.
Olive Garden signature Italian dressing. It is a huge bottle.
I do remember their salad being good too. They had the pepperoncinis. They put like 2 or 3 in the whole bowl. I'd always try to grab them and then get yelled at.
I took a bottle of that over to this dinner party and it ended up getting quite raucous because this is going to sound disgusting, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. The host... sounds like an incredibly classy dinner party. We ended up doing vodka shots chased by shots of the Italian dressing. And it was pretty intense and pretty full on. But before we got to that part of the night, I just went around and said to people like, what is your relationship with this place? What can you tell me about the Olive Garden restaurant chain in America?
I haven't been there in a while. I know that they have unlimited breadsticks, and it's really popular.
When you're there, your family.
Is that the slogan?
Yes, when you're there, your family.
He's paid to say that.
What about you? Have you spent any time at Olive Garden?
I have spent some time at Olive Garden. I was there a few months ago. I was on a tour. I was photographing my friend's tour, and we stopped at Olive Garden, and the phone starts ringing, and nobody's answering it. And it's like it rings a million times, and I get sick of it. And I was like, dude, I'm gonna fucking answer this phone. And so I answer the phone. So I'm like Olive Garden, and I think we were in Mississippi or something. I don't even remember. Yeah, I don't know where we were. And they were like, hey, what time do you guys close? And I was like, or they were like, what's the wait time? And I was like, it's about 15 minutes. And they were like, okay, thanks. And they were like, that was it.
What would be adjacent to Olive Garden? Like, name 2 places that are kind of in that similar tier.
Chili's. Yeah, Cracker Barrel.
Tim, have you ever been to an Olive Garden?
Yes, and I love it. And my family loves it. And it's like a staple, I think, in familial dining. It's not like somewhere you go on a date, but it's like you can build your own. I don't know. It depends on but I think it's a really fun place if you want to eat like kind of good Italian food if you're in a pinch. You can build your own, you can like do whatever, you can like get more salad, get more bread. Like
I feel like it's Cheesecake Factory adjacent.
I also agree. I agree. It's akin to Cheesecake Factory.
So I feel everyone has your view on it as well. It's like this childhood thing.
Do you know about Chili's?
No.
Oh.
No, I've never been to a
All right, we
Chili's.
got to do a Chili's as
Okay,
well.
what's the deal?
We'll have to visit it later.
Okay, that's
it's
another
similar
epic.
to Olive Garden. I mean, I think a lot of it really just has to do with access to other restaurants. Because when I did my road trip over the summer with Calvin and my dad, we ate at a Chili's because we were in Sioux Falls and that was what was around.
That's available to you.
Yeah.
That's also a very cute road trip. Your dad and Calvin, that's a very cute trip.
But as far as Italian food goes, I don't think I would throw. One of your friends said good Italian, or what?
Yeah, Tim. Yeah, good Italian, passable Italian food. Yeah,
I guess.
But it depends. Probably when you say that, it depends where on the country you grew up as well, and like where you are and what's available to you.
Exactly. That's what I think it comes down to. If you're in a town that doesn't have an Italian restaurant that is making fresh handmade pasta, like. That's a good option.
Yeah, it's the best place you can go to.
Which, speaking of, do you have any go-to Italian places here in LA?
No, I haven't found them yet. I mean, I finally found a good go-to Indian the other day. Like, I've struggled to get good Indian
Bad
food
Mash?
here. No.
Bad Mash is...
Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh my God, okay. But no, Italian, haven't found it here. I mean, I dine at Olive Garden for the first time in the documentary. And so I guess for me, that is my Italian place to go currently.
So,
I haven't been anywhere else.
A few blocks from us right now, Spina is the Italian place to go to.
You would go there over Olive Garden?
Yes. It's incredible Italian. Maybe it'll ruin Olive Garden for you, though. If you
also,
go
like, you look, I'm going to play you this documentary. I think maybe you'll change your mind after listening. Maybe you'll be like, ooh, I need to go back.
All right, we'll see.
I'm just so fascinated by America's endless chains. Each one with its own carefully calibrated brand, each representing a different part of this very weird country. And so sometimes for the show, when I want to focus on something a little lighter, I'll get in contact with some of them to see if they'll welcome us in for an episode. Some places are more welcoming than others. I emailed Starbucks a few years ago, and they replied with a list of questions saying, "Hi David, can you please answer the following questions? What is the name of your podcast? When does it launch? How long will the episode be? What topics are you hoping to cover in the episode? What other information should we know?" I answered all their questions at length, and they replied with, "Thanks so much for reaching out. Unfortunately, we're unable to accommodate your request at this time and appreciate your understanding." And then they stopped replying to any of my emails, including the one I sent again last week. I googled Starbucks and got the headline, "Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz violated labor law," so I guess they're just busy with that. Anyway, other chains are more welcoming. And when I emailed Olive Garden, they replied pretty much straight away, just saying, "Of course, come and meet us at one of our restaurants in LA, we'll feed you, and we can talk about whatever you want."
My name is Jamie Bunker, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing for the Olive Garden.
And so at 1 p.m. on a very hot Tuesday afternoon, I found myself walking into an Olive Garden to eat lunch there for the very first time. And I'd be dining with one of Olive Garden's top dogs.
I grew up a latchkey kid, so I grew up cooking. I worked as a private chef for a little while, so it was a big part of my life.
Jamie says she loves food, and so of course she loves Olive Garden.
We have over 900 restaurants in all 50 states. We are pretty widespread. We're popular everywhere. There's no real significant regionality to the brand. It's for everyone. I think the founders were onto something when they concocted this brand. And even today, there are a lot of mom and pop great Italian restaurants across the country, but there are not any Italian restaurants at scale like what we have.
As we're settling in, Tina, the manager for this Olive Garden, drops by the table. She's been here for decades. Now, you were saying earlier, you've been here for almost 20 years?
Almost 20 years. I love the culture. I love the people. I love the family atmosphere. That's something that has been promoted since day one when I started as a server. So that's one of the reasons why I stuck around so long.
Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Flightless Bird is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, Rob, I don't know if you're anything like me. I've talked about this before. If I'm out at a group dinner, I often feel like, I don't know if it's just trying to fit in with other people, but I'm definitely not my full self. It's like I'm wearing, big metaphor in there, but I'm wearing a mask. You know that feeling?
Yeah, group dinners is not my favorite thing. I'm much more of a one-on-one. I don't need a large audience. It gives me a lot of anxiety.
Horrible. Look, October is the season for wearing masks, so maybe this is my time to shine. But the fact is, some of us feel like we wear a mask and hide more often than we actually want to, whether it's at work and social settings, around our family. I never feel like this around you, Rob, which is quite nice.
It's great to hear.
Now, therapy can help you learn to accept all parts of yourself so you can take off the mask, because masks should be for Halloween only, not for our emotions, okay? Now, I've been doing therapy for a little while now. I've found it very helpful just because your friends get sick of you going to them for help all the time. And if you can just go to someone neutral who's actually smart and can help guide you through things, yeah, I just highly recommend it.
Are you calling your friends not smart?
They're smart, but they're sick to death of me.
So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited for your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge.
So take off the mask with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/bird today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bird. Support for Flight This Bird comes from Quince. Now, here in Los Angeles, it's starting to get colder, which is great because I'm a sweater, for one thing, and I also like wearing long sleeve shirts. You know this about me, Rob. I love a long sleeve.
Yeah, you have a very specific wardrobe. It usually isn't correlated to the actual weather.
No, I march to the beat of my own drum, but I do have to say that when it gets colder, I do like starting to layer up, and that's where Quince comes in. They offer affordable, high-quality essentials for any wardrobe, including when it's getting colder. If you need that sweater, Quince has got you sorted. They also have seasonal must-haves like Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $60 and comfy pants for any occasion.
And something we really like is that Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes, and they partner with them directly so they can cut out the cost of the middleman, passing the savings on to you.
I also just really like their website. It's very easy to navigate and to see things that, to be honest, I didn't even know I wanted. I see them there, click order, then they turn up at your door. Upgrade your wardrobe with pieces made to last with Quince. Go to quince.com/bird for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/bird to get free shipping and 365-day returns.
Quince.com/bird.
Oh, yeah. Olive Gardens always struck me as this objectively strange name. Olive gardens aren't really a thing. It should be Olive Grove. Olives grow in groves, not gardens. They're trees. And Jamie agrees that it's a bit weird, saying that when this restaurant was due to open in Florida back in 1982, it was just all a mad panic.
Now, they're weeks away from opening the very first Olive Garden on International Drive in Orlando. And they're coming up with Mama's Italian Kitchen and Giardino's and Gianni's. And in focus groups, they're getting rejected. People can't say these names. They're not pronounceable. And this goes back to a time where there really wasn't a lot of Italian, outside of mom and pop's, Italian restaurants. And so they were really looking for that, but they were also looking for something that had to pass a trademark search. And they landed on the idea of a restaurant called The Olive Tree. And they loved that it was a rich and robust name that would say something about the food. They loved that it was rooted. It felt like it had some history behind it. It had some heritage. And so this is when your legal department is looking at phone books across the country. And so they're sorting through phone books to see if there's any olive trees. And they've gotten through about 3/4 of the country. Nothing's come up. So the team feels pretty good, at least good enough to tell the sign fabricator, go ahead and start making the sign. So the sign fabricator begins, and then a call comes down from legal that there is a little truck stop restaurant in California that is called the Olive Tree, and therefore they cannot use the name. So they call the sign company, and they have the tree and they have the olive written on the sign, and that's it. Now, they didn't want to spend a whole lot more money. They were weeks away. They needed to finish the sign. So I think it was actually the sign fabricator that said, why not call it the Olive Garden? Now, the founding team, they didn't love the name because olives grow on trees. They don't grow in gardens. It sounded a little ridiculous. But in the absence of coming up with anything else, they thought, well, at least it sounds unusual, a little bit different. It's memorable. People can pronounce it. And so off they went. They called the fabricator, and the sign was made, and the Olive Garden was born.
And here we are, over 40 years later. God, I'm old. Looking around the restaurant, it's sort of set up to look like the inside of a Tuscan farmhouse. I love it how in America, Even dining feels like you're in a theme park.
My name is Jonathan. I'll be your server for today, okay?
And how long have you been with Olive Garden for?
I've been with Olive Garden for 3 years now.
What would you say? I mean, look, it's a big menu. I already can see that. Do you have any standouts, things you would recommend?
I would surely recommend the chicken and shrimp carbonara. I have a nice picture of it right on the front. So it's chicken, shrimp. It comes with spaghetti, a carbonara sauce, which is our Alfredo cooked with bacon, bell peppers, and it is a really popular portion. It's probably my go-to for lunch. And then I also do have the tour of Italy if you want to do a little bit of everything. I have the lasagna with fettuccine and Alfredo sauce on top, and a chicken parm with mozzarella cheese and marinara sauce on top.
To cut a long story short, we sort of order everything. We're at this big table in the corner, and pretty soon it's just all covered in food. I'm up to my elbows in chicken parmesan, spaghetti, shrimp, meatballs, the 3-cheese marinara. I keep hearing about breadsticks being a thing.
Oh, soup salad and breadsticks for sure, which comes unlimited with every entree. It's part of the generosity of the brand.
Nothing says American/Italian generosity like unlimited breadsticks. And from what I can tell, that's sort of Olive Garden's main thing.
The breadsticks were such an important part of the beginning of the brand. They tried over 700 different breadstick recipes. According to one of our founding members, they tried over 700 recipes before they nailed it with that one.
And with the unlimited breadsticks come unlimited dipping sauce, because America loves sauce. What do you recommend for dipping?
I say try all of them.
Let's get all of them.
Got it.
That's an American thing. All of them. All of them, please. Eventually, all our food's here. And that other thing happens that Olive Garden is famous for. Jonathan brings us cheese and a cheese grater, and he starts grating.
Just go ahead and let me know when.
It's phrases like this that have turned into catchphrases, and somehow made a sort of dorky restaurant chain part of the fabric of America. Talk show hosts like Jimmy Fallon love the place. 11 years ago, he opened a show with a monologue about buying Olive Garden's old catchphrase.
I have some very exciting news. You guys all know Olive Garden, right? Love that, right? Great chain of restaurants. They have the slogan, when you're here, you're family, right? So they're getting rid of the slogan. Yeah. So just a couple weeks ago on our show, I was just joking around. I was like, hey, late night with Jimmy Fallon, when you're here, you're family. When you're here, you're family, yeah. So we reached out to Olive Garden, and we said, if you're not going to use that slogan anymore, can we have it? And they said yes. Not kidding.
5 years ago, he did a whole other Olive Garden segment with Post Malone, another Olive Garden megafan. They pull up to an Olive Garden in this very obnoxious, bright pink stretch Hummer.
I'm here with Post Malone, and he's going to take me to his favorite restaurant, Olive Garden.
Yeah, very excited.
So yeah, this place is baked into the American culture, celebrity endorsements and all. And according to Jamie, there are, of course, tattoos.
We have seen several tattoos from never-ending soup salad and breadsticks to the cheese grater.
I couldn't let a detail like this go, so tracked down one of the Americans who has an Olive Garden tattoo. When I FaceTime Braden, he's wearing a vintage Olive Garden t-shirt. It shows a bunch of people building a comically large piece of lasagna with the words, proud to be a lasagna builder. Whatever that means.
I saw it and I was like, yes, I've like, I think last I counted like 50 shirts.
Just a weird piece of 90s memorabilia. And hidden underneath, show me your tattoo.
So I've got, let's see, it's the cheese grater and then it says say when.
There it is. The words I just heard, tattooed on a man thousands of miles away in Portland. And he has multiple tattoos.
And then I also have just the straight up like old school Olive Garden logo on my leg.
Braden tells me he's just always loved Olive Garden, to the point where his nickname in Little League was Breadsticks. He says he got the name after eating too many breadsticks, getting sick, and missing a game. And his number in the team was 11, which looks like 2 breadsticks.
My grandmother used to grow tomatoes, and she would can them and make this pasta sauce. So growing up as like a 3-year-old, I was just eating what we called macaroni and tomato juice, which sounds kind of weird, but is absolutely delicious. And then so I think Olive Garden was just the first thing I found outside of my house as a kid that I was like, oh, I can get this here. I don't just have to have it at home. It's something from being a little kid to being an adult. Now I'm a dad. It's just it's a consistent thing in my life.
This is a man who allegedly ate nothing but Olive Garden for a solid month, which involved him smuggling frozen batches of Olive Garden across the border into Canada. And a few years ago, something happened that must have been fate, must have been destiny. When Olive Garden gave away 50 lifetime passes to eat free at Olive Garden for life, he won.
It is golden. It's very thick, but my name is like hardly readable. It's gone through the wash a couple times and has been used hundreds of times in the past few years. A lot of employees have never heard of it, which makes it really interesting because it's such a kind of niche thing that there's always a little like chaos about how to ring it out and stuff like that. So it always creates some interesting conversations.
Braden is not alone in his singular love for Olive Garden. I spoke to a couple in Arkansas, Sam and Jeff, who credit Olive Garden for, well, all of the major moments in their relationship.
It's something that we both hung on to and we had in common. And so, as our story began, it was just something we kind of latched onto together. So we would, where would you go for date night? Oh, Olive Garden. Sounds good.
So it was at Olive Garden that they won a trip to Italy with about 100 other Olive Garden fans. And that's where they ended up getting engaged at an Olive Garden event at a vineyard somewhere in the Tuscan hills. Did you see that coming at all? Was it a complete surprise?
So yes and no. One was like Jeff and I had many conversations about getting married. So I was like, okay, I'm ready. When's this going to happen? But I will say not in front of 100 strangers. So he proposed right before dinner. We had dinner and we went back to our room. Olive Garden had already printed off pictures of our engagement and left them for us in our room.
Back in America, they had more engagement photos taken at, of course, an Olive Garden.
We also had engagement photos taken there.
And when it came to their wedding, it was clear what everyone was going to be eating.
It was the first place we reached out to see if they would cater the wedding. They really jumped through some hoops to make it special for us and bring a truck on site and make sure the breadsticks were fresh and baked there.
Back in the restaurant, I shoved back a few more breadsticks. Our drinks have arrived, and I noticed the place has its own separate bar, which I'm definitely taking a date to one day. Maybe Rob if he's extra lucky and takes up drinking again.
So you have our one of our most popular drinks, the Italian margarita, a signature of ours that we've had for a very long time, and it comes with a sidecar of amaretto. We've also recently introduced a dessert of ours, the chocolate lasagna, and they'll come over and they will use those same graters, and white chocolate will come pouring down until you say when.
It sounds incredible. All of these things are incredibly dangerous for me. An Italian margarita, a chocolate lasagna, chicken and shrimp, breadsticks, sauces. Life is good, and I'm full. I won't be getting a tattoo just yet, but I get the appeal. Thanks, Olive Garden. Starbucks, your move. Now, Rob.
Yes, David.
Well, I think there's a lot of things. I'll start. There's a lot of things running through my mind that I think speak a lot to America. So I listened back to that, and I was kind of internally repulsed.
You were a little self-conscious?
I was self-conscious. I was, and I realized I was completely drawn in. I almost felt like that entire documentary almost felt like a cult, like about a cult, made by someone that had got drawn into the cult accidentally. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I mean, that's the tricky thing for you is that you're learning about these things with no context, and you're going to go talk to a publicist that's going to sell the shit out of it. You don't know when you're being sold the story and the brand and all of that, which, I mean, it's America.
It's America.
It's an
This
American
happens.
thing to happen.
I mean, it's so American, and in listening to it, I knew that I was getting fed the most PR line available, but it wasn't as grating as listening to the whole thing back again. I'm also torn because, as I said, on one level, I'm grateful they showed up. They basically turned up, and I could say good things about them, I could shit on them, I could do whatever I wanted. That's great, as opposed to someone just not letting you into that world at all. But at the same time, that sounded like, and maybe that's America, like it sounded like a cult, right?
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Fallon was probably paid a lot to do all of that Olive Garden
and now
stuff.
I want to make it clear I'm not getting paid anything, which is almost more offensive.
I think maybe Post Malone and Jimmy Fallon, maybe Olive Garden probably isn't either of their favorite restaurants. I might be wrong.
Do you think possibly some money exchanged hands and it wasn't completely organic?
I mean, there's nothing wrong though with chain, like,
no,
it's upscale chain food. And I'll admit, coming into this conversation, I'm much more of a food snob, so I'm going to be overly critical when it comes to that. But
I'm filthy in the way I eat. I go to so many chains and you're not that.
Yeah, to me, food at scale in general is a harder concept to get behind, of like, you're going to have the same produce and food and menu items in Alaska as you do in Mississippi, as you do in California, as you do in Georgia. The sourcing of those fresh ingredients, to me, seems harder to do. If it's going to be the same menu in all those places, they're going to have to freeze and ship, and the quality is going to change as a result of that.
Yeah, 100%. And there's also the factor of, I mean, there's a million things going on in this world, a lot of them that I don't really understand. There's good things like the price point is going to be lower so people can like go in and have that family night out when they can't necessarily afford something else. At the same time, I imagine in like the greater food chain and the way we're consuming things, probably less great in some ways. It's not exactly farm to table scenarios that we're seeing in chains.
Exactly. And that's what I mean. I don't want to come off as elite because I don't eat at the Olive Garden.
Yeah.
It's also because I live in LA and there are options to go for the same price.
Yeah, we're surrounded by insane options,
Eat a local Italian place that's going to have locally sourced options, potentially. But there are, like, these big chains they're the ones that can move the needle on these things. Like Chipotle, I know at one point they had brought on this chef, Nate Appleman, to kind of take over a lot of their food development. And now I sound like I'm just doing an ad for Chipotle.
No, that's the trouble. I think that's a fundamental thing. Like when you start talking about these places, it's hard not to sound like you're running some weird PR line. But no, go on. Yeah, they brought on the chef.
But they were able to change the way they were sourcing their food. And they had a sustainability fest in Chicago that I went to where we're bringing in all these big name chefs to do demonstrations and this and that and just teach people about food sustainability.
Yeah, right.
I think it's cool when chains can get behind that sort of thing. But again, then it's unrealistic to expect that the Chipotle in Indiana, that they're going to change the menu based on what's local to Indiana.
Yeah, probably not going to be able to take that leap.
And it's a business still at the end of the day.
Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Support for Flightless Bird comes from Blue Nile. Now, at this time of the year, as we head towards Christmas, maybe you're looking back on all the amazing memories you have from 2024, especially if you're in love. Rob, you're in love right now.
So in love. Maybe you're already looking ahead to your plans in 2025, and maybe, just maybe, those plans involve getting engaged to the one you're in love with. I'm already married.
You are. I'm not going to get engaged just yet. I quite like the idea, and I'm very curious when it's going to happen. And I feel very fortunate that I now know about BlueNile.com because it's the original online jeweler since 1999.
Yeah, well, anyone else taking that momentous step, we recommend sourcing your engagement ring from BlueNile.com. They offer a diamond price guarantee, which means that in most cases, they can meet or beat a competitor's price on a comparable diamond, and you can feel great about the purchase. It's a big purchase and a big investment when you decide to finally get engaged, so it's nice to know you're going somewhere that you're getting an actual deal on.
And the other thing is that they are committed to ensuring the highest ethical standards are observed when sourcing diamonds and jewelry, which is incredibly important. So you can feel great ethically about that as well as the price. Blue Nile also offers 100% satisfaction guarantee with guaranteed free shipping and returns, then guaranteed service and repairs for free. And the favorite thing about Blue Nile that sort of jumped out to me, the packaging arrives in very nondescript packaging, so you're not going to give the secret away.
You're used to getting packages sent to you in discreet manners, huh?
Oh, look, let's not go there.
Not a stranger to that. So right now, you can go to BlueNile.com and use the code FLIGHT for $50 off your purchase of $500 or more. That's $50 off with code FLIGHT at BlueNile.com. BlueNile.com.
When I was in New Zealand,
I remember when Burger King opened in New Zealand, and I remember walking in there and just growing up out of America as a kid, it was a place that you would look to as being exciting and admirable.
Yeah.
Because it's in all your entertainment. And so I remember going to that Burger King with my mum and dad and my brother Rob, and it was like jukeboxes and it was set out like a diner, and I'd never been anywhere like that. And so there's that element built into me of going to these places that I've heard about in pop culture, and it's just kind of a novelty and kind of exciting. And that's so different to the way that you come to it, because it's like normal as hell.
Well,
you know, it's like it's always been there. Whereas for me, it feels like almost walking into an Olive Garden or a Cheesecake Factory or a P.F. Chang's, it kind of is the same, a lesser level, but it elicits the same response as going to a theme park. It's silly.
I think a lot of it just comes down to your expectations. I'm on a road trip and I'm stopping by an Olive Garden. I'm not expecting to eat Spina level handmade pasta.
Yeah, and if you do, that's on you.
Yeah, that's my fault.
Yeah.
And I think there is something to appreciate about these types of restaurants and the community of people that have been built around it, and the access to this type of food to these different areas is obviously important.
Yeah, I mean, so many people talk to going to like pre-prom there. So you go to prom for like dinner beforehand and stuff like that. So it's obviously, it's a price point that, oh God, I just sound like I'm doing an ad again. Price points? Who am I? What the hell? Look, fucking they gave Olive Garden.
Yeah, David showed up in Olive Garden swag. He's got
so Olive Garden gave me
you got a jumpsuit.
A jumpsuit. So they gave this to you. There's
great.
a jumpsuit there. There's some socks. Maybe Calvin can grow into this. There's a hoodie for you, Rob.
Oh, this is all for me, huh?
Yeah, this is all for you.
It's a sweater that says soup salad sticks.
Yeah, and you can have that dressing as well. So there you go. So that's Olive Garden. I don't think there's really anything else to say, except that was my first experience. I ate so much, I felt physically exhausted and almost ill afterwards. It's so much carb.
As far as Italian food goes, like you've been to Italian restaurants.
I have.
How did it compare?
I mean, I would say like it wasn't as good as some fancy schmancy place.
Yeah.
But then also it tasted delicious. I was hungry. I ate way too much. I felt like ill because I'd had way too much food.
Which was more on you than Olive Garden.
Yeah, I don't have like a particularly nuanced palate, so I'm probably not the person. I mean, it was fine.
Yeah,
I ate. It was delicious. The breadsticks, endless breadsticks. I mean, that's a weird thing at all these places, the fact they start you off with bread. Because filling up on bread before this amazing food comes in is such a strange thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an Italian thing.
It's an Italian
most
thing.
Italian restaurants will
just
do
get
that.
filled with bread. Yeah. And I have a problem with self-control. So when there's endless stuff, it does become a problem for me because I do just...
Chips and salsa before bread.
It's bad for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now, housekeeping. Last week, we encouraged you to go and slam a friend and film it and to put your submissions on the internet.
We realized we didn't do the best job at
really bad
setting people up for success for this.
You know, it was a bad deal. So the t-shirts are amazing that we want to give away as prizes, but the issue is we don't have any submissions. It's embarrassing to say, but we don't have any. And I think part of that is that
it was a hard challenge.
Difficult. We wanted you to go and slime someone that you love, which is sort of a weird thing to do. And then also searching for a hashtag flightless bird, all we got were images of flightless birds like the kiwi and the tagahay. And Instagram has changed its algorithm, so when you search for hashtags, it's really hard to like search by date.
Yeah, I couldn't even figure out how to search for recent flightless bird tags.
So if you did submit a video and we just couldn't find it, I apologize to you for that.
But also, if you're hashtagging flightless bird, tag David and I in it.
Yeah, tag me in it. So like, if there are videos out there, just tag David Farrier, tag Wobbly Wob in there, and you'll get us, you know? I'm sorry. We've got a new thing that we'd like your help with, though.
Yeah, we're giving you a little more time.
We'll go over this again on the next episode, but it's going to be, I don't know if you've heard about this, but it's going to be the American election very soon, where we're going to decide who the next president of the United States is going to be. And on election night, we want to make an episode based around election night. And so wherever you are on election night, we would like you to take your phone and do some recording for us. There's 3 things we'd really like you to do. So just go into your voice memo on your phone, start recording, and just introduce yourself. Say your name, where you are in the country, what it is that you're doing, and where you are, where you're going to be watching the election.
Are you at a bar? Or you have a bunch of friends over at your house that you're watching, or your parents?
Set the scene. I sort of envision people doing this all over the country, so just set the scene a little bit. The second task is early on in the night, wherever you are, whether it's a bar or at home.
This is pre-results.
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 Just go and talk to someone about how they're feeling about things. It's that simple. They might be someone that is with you. They might be supporting the other side, whoever that is. Just gauge how they're feeling. The third part of this task is when the election results are clear and it's pretty obvious who's won, go back to that person, sort of same question, like, how are you feeling? And just get them to talk a little bit on that.
Yeah. So it's 3 things we want you to do. First one, introduce yourself, tell us where you are, set the stage a little bit. Second thing is pre-results, ask some people how they're feeling. Third thing, after the results are in, same thing, let's ask some people how they're feeling.
So by the end of this, you'll have probably 3 voice memos on your phone, and we want you to email those things to flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. That's flightlessbirdchat@gmail.com. And we'll get that all in sort of, obviously on election day, the day after as you're emailing those in. And then the following Tuesday's Flightless Bird, we're going to be breaking down the election, and your material will be a part of that episode. And the idea is we want to get input from all over America, all over the country. And don't just talk to your friends. You might be at a bar and there's someone at that bar that is obviously part of a different political team, because that's how things are now. Go over and talk to them about it. Be safe. Don't go and start a fight with someone, but just, reach outside of your group. And I'm just hoping this will be a fun exercise for you as well.
Yeah. And the goal is really, we want to just show how Americans spend election night, the things they're doing. And then this election specifically, how people are feeling before and after. And if it's anything like the last 2 elections, things are going to get weird and crazy potentially,
because this is America.
So we just wanted to kind of hear what's going around and how people are feeling around the country.
You start thinking about this, and we'll remind you in next week's episode as well. So just wanted to give you a very early heads up on our plan so you can start thinking about that. Okay, feedback to last week's episode on slime. There was a lot. Firstly, Rob, you at the end of the slime episode, we heard from your 2 children. Really liked that Vincent crept in. And I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but when Vincent commented right at the end, do you ever watch South Park?
Butters is who you're...
No, not Butters. No, not Butters. Ike. One of the characters in South Park adopted this little Canadian baby. And Vincent reminded me of Ike a lot, just chiming in.
Well, so Vincent's 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
What had happened is I was recording with Calvin.
Yeah.
We did the slime. I sent him away with this vat of slime as a result of that. He went upstairs, and then a few seconds later, I hear the door open, and Vinny just yelling from the top of the stairs, "I want slime, I want slime."
Which is exactly what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Your dream is coming true.
Yep.
It's really adorable. What were the results of your kids having slime for a few hours?
Calvin had it taken away pretty quickly from his mom.
Because he said he was going to be tidy.
Yeah, he went around to the table and he was fairly tidy.
Okay.
Except he went to go wash his hands after, and there was slime all over the sink handles. And then I put it away. I was like, all right, your time with the slime is up.
You're done.
You can have it again at some point, but I put it up on a shelf away. And then the next morning when he woke up, the first thing he said to me is, "Can I have the slime?"
Oh, I love that.
And I was like, no, we're not doing slime before school.
It's a slogan, like, no slime before school. So it went well.
For him. Vincent didn't get any slime.
Too dangerous. I mean, he'd probably eat it and stuff, wouldn't
and
he?
Throw it. And,
Don't. And this is a PSA. Don't give slime to like tiny children. So you're a good dad, Rob, and that you kept an eye on that. I panicked because I realized once I gave you that slime, it was that fancy slime, and one of them was boba, and it came with little metal or plastic boba bits in it. And I texted you just being like, "Oh my God, Rob,
I don't know how kids operate, but just be aware there are these little chokeable like balls in there.
Yeah.
I panicked.
Yeah, and I got that panic. I could feel the panic in that text.
Okay. I'm just glad both your kids are alive. It's the main thing. Okay, a lot of feedback came in. Noah from Spaceman Barry, he messaged. It's very funny. So Noah was the 30-year-old that moved in with 80-year-old Spaceman Barry. He texted me, fun fact, I won Nickelodeon Guts live tour in 94 in Albany, New York. I don't know who any of these people are. I met Mike O'Malley and Flo. I climbed the aggro crag, missed a buzzer and had to go back down and still beat the other two up to the top. He mentioned the aggro crag. I have no idea what that is. The aggro crag, it's 2 words.
What's the mountain thing?
It's the
last
mountain
challenge that they had to do to get to the top, and you're hitting things along the
It's
way.
like a foreign language to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, was this a typo? Was this like a text correction?
I mean, game shows in the 90s on Nickelodeon were pretty incredible. You had Guts, Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Amazing.
Do you know about any of
No.
these? There were so many good ones.
What's
Double
the
Dare.
Hidden Temple? That sounds like an Indiana Jones kind of a thing.
It was. All of them were like slight trivia based, then climb through stuff, get dirty, and
So kids TV, they had budgets and they went all in.
yeah, I don't know that the budgets were massive, but
Right. They just committed.
They built these crazy obstacle courses, yeah.
I feel like maybe today, legally, it would be more difficult to do some of this stuff, maybe.
Yeah, like Guts, I remember there being like a swimming pool that they'd be doing some of the challenges in where they had to swim across and like collect things and
Yeah. Wild days. Jill wrote in, there are a few actually disgruntled people over this. As a fellow Canadian pointed out,
saw this.
You can't do that on TV. It was a Canadian production that was sold to the USA. I got to say, this is nitpicking.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
look.
And Dan Aykroyd is Canadian.
On the other thing, Dan Aykroyd's Canadian. I'm sorry, I talked about Ghostbusters and Dan Aykroyd. And no, I mean, it's really interesting because there are times when I do get confused about what is Canadian and what is American. The Beavers episode was very dicey on that.
Well, to be fair, it's the same as Australia and New Zealand to us.
No, totally.
It's the same.
And that's what I'm realizing. I realize because in New Zealand, when someone, when we start talking about Pavlova or Russell Crowe or Crowded House, people do get into debates between New Zealand and Australia. And for us, we're very passionate about it. And I understand it's the same thing here. I'm eliciting this visceral response of patriotism deep in your guts. And so when I mention a show that was like a Canadian invention that was sold to America,
yeah, Canadians are like, no, we did that.
Yeah, we did that, which is fair.
Which is the same that you do when
100%.
Australians try to claim things that are New Zealand.
100%. And so I will say with Dan Aykroyd, yeah, he is a Canadian man, but he was in an American movie called Ghostbusters.
That only played in America.
That only played in America. And
not globally
never
recognized.
And his grandfather was a spiritualist, and spiritualism definitely had its origins in the United States. So I stand by
your inclusion of Dan Aykroyd.
Inclusion. But no, honestly, thanks for writing in because that was fascinating. I had no idea that it was a Canadian show. Deborah wrote in, loved your slime episode. Spent a good portion of my childhood creating slime out of glue and fabric softener and then spinning it on my ceiling fan. I thought that would give you a visceral reaction. Massive oversight. Zoe wrote in, didn't talk about Flubber, a Robin Williams film that was incredibly slime-centric and slime-curious.
Little slime guy.
Shout out to Flubber. Also, I was informed that Alma's glue, which I was very puzzled by when you raised that, in New Zealand it's called PVA glue. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Did you do the thing where
I did not coat my hands in it. I think a lot of kids did because a lot of New Zealanders wrote saying absolutely did that, but we called it PVA. Gilmore Goal wrote and said, just wait until you find out about oobleck. I was like, what the hell is oobleck? And oobleck is that substance where, depending on the pressure you put on it, it turns between solid and liquid. You know that stuff?
Yeah.
Also, Tom wrote, he was in our pinball episode. He was a massive pinball collector. Tom emails a reasonable amount, and I always love his emails. He said, the oil industry has been using cross-linked fluids, aka slime, as a mechanism to carry out proppant, sand, for hydraulic fracking since the 1960s, be it using I feel I'm saying all these words incorrectly, be it using a guar-based gel fluid or an HEC polymer-based fluid and using borates,
borates, oh god, along with high pH or cross-metal cross-linkers like titanium or zirconium. Obviously, the slime used for consumer consumption has to stay away from the toxic metal X-linkers. Anyway, I've enjoyed the general and varied directions the podcast taken. I just liked his very specific feedback. Tom worked in the oil industry, so he's very passionate about that space. And also Lex wrote in saying that slime is used a lot in erotic photography and sent me some photos of some people naked, drenched in slime. And I thought that was another aspect of slime we hadn't touched on.
I mean, we touched on it briefly.
Yeah, we did. There's certain erotic aspects of having slime splurged over a body or a face. I was on the Creed Reddit.
Of course, as one does.
And I found some slime-adjacent content. Someone posted in the Creed Reddit, oiled up, ? I went to a show a few weeks ago. Scott Stapp came out and looked to be drenched in sweat. It was a semi-outdoor venue, but not hot out. Actually, it was kind of chilly. My question is, does Scott Stapp always come out looking like this? My only logical explanation is that he gets oiled, aka slimed up, prior. Is this the norm for shows on this tour? I remember that for that Creed episode, when I went to that show, Scott Stapp did come out incredibly oily. And now I do wonder if he does oil himself up as kind of like a
pre-show ritual.
Pre-show ritual, maybe to be a little bit more sexy, be a bit more slimy. If anyone has the answer.
I mean, being slimy is normally not a nice thing to describe someone.
No, if you say if I say Rob Slimy, that's like an insult.
Yeah, but I guess visually, I'm just trying to understand why you would intentionally make himself slimy.
I think there's that sort of a section, if you've got like a hot bod, and I'd argue that Scott Stapp is really cut.
Yeah.
If you're a bit oily, I think it accentuates, like bodybuilders are always a bit slimy, aren't they? And that sort of accentuates the muscles, maybe?
Yeah.
Like you're sort of glistening?
I don't know if I'm co-signing the oily and slimy being the same thing.
Yeah. No, okay, this is a good point. They are slightly different
slimy, I feel like has to be chunky.
Horrific. Yeah, maybe I'm stretching out just because I like to talk about Creed way more than is natural. That's probably a good place to end on images of a slimed up Scott Stapp.
There's really nowhere to go from there.
There's nowhere to go from there. Yeah, keep thinking about election night and where you're going to be. We'll remind you of that in the next few episodes. But as always, thank you for listening. Tell your friends about the show, and we'll see you next week. Stick around to hear from Small Child.
Do you like breadsticks?
What's breadsticks?
Say like and subscribe.
What will you do if I do?
Nothing.
Will you buy me my new toy because it's just broke? Like and subscribe.